Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I'd like to welcome Sherry from Wisconsin, and we're going to talk about remote neural monitoring and targeting. And um, you could tell us about your situation if you want to tell us, what's going on and what brought your attention to all of this um, crazy stuff that we're dealing with these days.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Sherry from Wisconsin. And thanks so much, Kevin, for having me here with you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I watch your videos every day, the little short clips and the longer ones. So you've been a real help to me. I just want to say thank you.
I appreciate that. No problem.
Yeah. So I guess my situation, you're going to see me looking down on my notes a little bit because I did take some notes. I kind of, I have to do that to keep myself on track. Otherwise, I want to make sure that the main points get across.
Yeah.
But so me, I don't know. What about me? I guess I'm a targeted individual. So it's been a very long experience, an unusual one to say the least, with all the tactics of the harassment. So I guess let's see. I had, as far as my qualifications, I've had a little bit of schooling. I was in school at our local community college for a degree in therapy assistant. And so I took some science classes, just a few, but they really helped when I was trying to understand the technology behind this whole the program and how it works, the advanced satellite-based technology. Taking those science classes helped. Yeah, and another thing that helped, I have to say, is Bible training. I studied the Bible for years with a certain group of people. I don't want to say any names, but they taught me a lot, and with my relationship with God, I think that it helped me to combat this being a targeted person. Because with targeted, that's a military and a paramilitary term. The whole thing of being a target.
Yeah. Well,
right?
before we
literally,
listen,
when you're targeted, it's like get out a big old target sign because
right. Okay. Before we go into that, though, tell me a little bit more about. You said what kind of therapy um, you were taking? Was that your major? Tell me more about that.
Oh, sure. It was occupational therapy assistant. So,
Okay.
the community college level.
So what exactly is that, though?
Occupational therapy is kind of like physical therapy, and it's when people have accidents like strokes or a lot of
Okay, I
neurological
understand.
diseases.
So I
Multiple.
was wondering if it had anything to do with like psychology and stuff like that. So it doesn't.
Well, a lot of the courses covered mental health in the community and treatment and
Right.
everything. In fact, not to get off topic, but I remember you had a girl on your show a couple weeks ago. Her name was Allie. I forget where she's from, but she was talking about how she had received psychiatric treatment in the form of transcranial magnet, I think is the name for it, TMJ, transcranial magnet stimulation therapy.
Right.
She had been, I guess, institutionalized. And she said while she was there, she wasn't even aware that they had given her this therapy, until she was signing her paperwork and everything later. And of course, it's an invisible technology. So, I mean, but yeah.
Right.
So therapy. And we covered a lot about mental health. So, yeah.
She's actually, I know who you're talking about. She's had some more things like that coming up since then. So I'm hoping to get her back on soon to follow up on everything that's been going on. So yeah, but moving right along. So
Yeah. It'd be interesting to hear back from her. I'd like to hear more about her, and I don't know your audience, your viewers, about what happens with people in psychiatrics that when they're targeted. That is one of the goals, is to try to neutralize via different ways, via sometimes making you incapacitated through the psychiatric system or through the prison system, and even sometimes in some cases death. So this is a very serious topic that
Right.
you're talking about today. We've both done, I think, a lot of research, hey, Kevin?
Yeah, well, I have some firsthand insight on that particular thing. So, you may have heard me talking about it. I've talked about it in some of my videos. And in the beginning of all of this stuff, it's difficult to approach family about this type of situation, and they don't understand. And people that don't have this sort of thing happening, they tend to think that it's not possible. Okay, so what happened with me
Right.
is my grandmother and my mother went together to a judge, and whatever they had to sign to have me committed for a psychological evaluation. So about 6 police showed up at my house, and they took me to a place, and I didn't have a choice. And you're coming with us one way or another. So they take you there, and you're locked in there, and you have to stay for the duration of the evaluation. And what I've gathered from this whole thing is that people in the psychiatric field, psychologists and psychiatrists and all of these people, that's their business. And, if something is your business, then it's not good business to buy into something like remote neural monitoring that completely just, it could destroy the whole industry, is what it could do.
Right.
They need people to
Yeah,
be
okay.
sick. They
I
need
see where you're
people,
going.
right? They need people to have psychological issues and conditions. And if
Well, they can
remote
do
neural
it.
monitoring
Right.
and artificial telepathy and all of this stuff is actually happening, then then that kind of cuts into their career. So, and I noticed that everybody who comes to the door, before they even really do any evaluations at all, the first thing they want to do is put them on some kind of medication. And that's where I ran into problems because I didn't want to take the medication. They ended up sending me to Georgia Regional, which is the main state hospital, psychiatric hospital in my state. So I stayed there for like 10 days. And, it actually worked out because I had a panel of, the lead psychiatrist and a panel of all of them, and I sat in the room with them all day long and answered their questions and went over everything. And what ended up happening was that they let me go and dismiss me without any psychological conditions or medication required. So it ended up working out. But, obviously my family thought different. They didn't think that at the time, they didn't think that, this stuff that was possible that I was talking about. And over time, I really just quit talking to them about it altogether.
Yeah, and then that's kind of isolating, which adds to the whole harassment thing. Is because it's a torture. It's almost like you're getting victimized twice. You're getting victimized first by the perpetrators, the perps, and then you're getting victimized secondarily by your friends and family who don't believe you or don't understand it.
Right.
And not that they even need to all the time, but it does sound crazy when you sit and break this technology down. It can sound crazy because it's powerful and it's invisible. The fact that it's invisible, I think that's what throws people off. But I mean, honestly, with technology, like we're doing a live broadcast now, I mean, years ago, people born in the 1900s, they might have thought something like this was crazy,
Right.
But that's just because.
That's one of the points that I make with people. I'm like, well, listen, we've been broadcasting all types of invisible waves with radio and TV and everything else for 100 years. It's not far-fetched to think, and they even have stuff out, where you can buy like a mind-controlled, remote-controlled car, helicopter, whatever, and put like a thing on and control it like that. They have stuff like that starting to come out, which pretty much that ought to show people like this kind of stuff is definitely possible. Reading brain waves and stuff like that. And it's been going on for a long time. I believe that the technology's been perfected for many, many years. And I believe that it's been pretty much available to street level people ever since we had available internet to street level people, and especially mobile internet that came, in the maybe around 08, 09, or 10 with mobile phones and stuff like that.
Sure. Yep. The smartphones too, because didn't that take the 3G network, Kevin, when the smartphones were first released? Because I worked at U.S. Cellular a long time ago, back in 2001, but that's when they just had the regular flip phones, the razors and all that. That was before the smartphone era.
Right. Right. I
Um,
think those were like 3G, and I think the first smartphones were 3G, and I used to call it the minternet instead of the internet, because you would have like the little miniature version of the internet on the flip phones and the razors and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
but
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, it was very rudimentary. If I remember, it looked kind of like it reminded you of like those old Atari games. When you see the little person moving across the screen or whatever, it's like a little block, and it show you how much like internet you had left.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of people think, and I'm not really sure what your take is, but a lot of people believe that this 5G thing that's coming has a lot to do with all of this stuff. And personally, I believe this. Okay, I think that this mind control technology, this EMF broadcast stuff, is far beyond any 4G, 5G, or anything else that's hitting the streets. And I believe that 5G technology is really just for cellular networks and stuff like that. I mean, personally, I've used 75 gigs so far this month, and I usually use about 200 every month. I use an unlimited plan, but that's all I use. I stay off of Wi-Fi. But people doing stuff like, if everybody's doing stuff like that, then obviously the system's going to have to be upgraded, and I believe that's what 5G really is.
Is upgrading the current system. Yeah, that's what you think.
I think that it's expanding the bandwidth to be able to handle the data transfers that are going on between everybody's phones with all of this stuff happening.
Okay. Oh, right, with the remote neural monitoring and
No, no,
everything.
not with the remote neural monitoring. Just with cellular data. It's like for instance, today
Oh, you did
I've
talk
loaded
about.
6 or 7 videos a day, and I've probably uploaded more than 10 gigs to YouTube today, and that's just with my phone. Remote neural monitoring is streaming every person all the time, full time, and I think that is way beyond the system that they're using. I believe is way beyond any 5G or any other cellular network. And there's no limitation. You could be 1,000 miles from a cell phone tower and still be on remote neural monitoring. So
Sure,
I don't think it
sure.
has anything to do with it, but a lot of other people seem to disagree with that.
Okay. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not an expert, as you know. I don't. Everything that I've learned through research and through some experience. So I have a lot of general knowledge on like how the whole the program kind of works. But like the specifics is from what I know about 5G is that it's part of the, like, you're right, it can reach everywhere, but and I was under the impression that it's part of the smart grid system, because right now with the whole technology and I guess agendas or whatnot you want to say. hmm So part of that whole goal is for hive mind. You know, like, I don't know how familiar your audience is with how this whole thing works, like electromagnetic frequencies, how it's in the brain, the body, and our whole environment. Like, it's not, I think, because people separate it. They think maybe, okay, it's in the environment, but it doesn't really affect me. So how does this all correlate with the targeting? But what's happening is that with the hive mind goal, what they're trying to do is sync human brains with devices. Okay, it sounds sci-fi to people who might not know, but since the brain, whenever you think a thought or feel an emotion, that gives off an electromagnetic frequency. And those things have been, mind control has been researched since forever. Especially in the 1970s, there was this particular case, and I read it in a book by Dr. John Hall. Stanford was given like a $338,000 contract, which at that time was a lot of money. Not just Stanford, all over the United States, all over the world. They've been researching this. Of course, it's part of an agenda. So anyways, at Stanford, 2 doctors, 2 neuroscientists were given a grant to work on mind control. And what they found out during their research was that you can read people's thoughts and emotions with an electroencephalogram. Okay, that's where you put the little things on your head and you can read the brain activity, because each thought and each emotion, no matter how small the thought or whatever the emotion is, mad, sad, glad, it can be read. It's a code. So they went to work decoding it. They figured out what they do is have volunteers come in and they would have the EEGs on them, the encephalograms, and they would show them flashcards. Okay, this is cat, this is dog, this is house, just like when you're a little kid. And what they would do is they would measure the codes that their brain showed whenever they were shown a picture. So with that, they were able to create a human dictionary of thoughts and emotions of like 250 words, meaning they could look at you without you saying a word and know what you were thinking by reading your EMFs. That was the first part of their research.
Right. Now,
and you understand. I'm just refreshing the audience so that they understand, because otherwise it might seem like we're just talking about technology and harassment. How does the two, how are the two together? How do they know each other? Oh, they know each other real well.
Right. Well, let me say something about that. So that's something that we spoke about before, and I think it's very important for everyone to understand the difference, because what you're talking about is what you call brain mapping. Okay, and
I think that's one way that they refer it.
right.
I just know what they did during that research, and that was to record the brain activity, the EMF, the electromagnetic frequencies that the brain produces while the person was thinking. So
Right.
yeah, so they could tell without.
So they're basically building a template of, this particular emission from the brain means this, or this means that, so, and in a sense mapping the frequencies that come from the brain. But a lot of people, when you say brain mapping, a lot of people think that they're.
You did, but
No,
that's the term, right?
I did, but it's the. I'm just bringing it because that's what.
Kevin,
That's
I didn't say that.
you didn't say it, but last time we were talking about this, it came up, and that's what you were for. I believe if I'm correct, you were referring to that as brain mapping last time, but what a lot of people think that brain mapping, because I hear everybody talking about brain mapping, and what a lot of people think that brain mapping is them going into your brain and digging around in your memories and mapping out your brain, which I don't believe is possible. And I've been dealing with the full-blown neural monitoring mind control thing for 4 or 5 years, every day, all day, and I think brain mapping is definitely more like what you're talking about, rather than what a lot of people have a perception of it actually being.
Okay. Yeah, it's making a map. It's like you said, I like how you put it, template. Because the human brain is like a computer, right, Kevin, basically?
Right.
So they're mapping out what thoughts and emotions bring up what frequencies, because every time those neural pathways fire, it could be simple thoughts like, oh, I'm going to eat this for dinner, I'm going to go to this store, your to-do list in your head.
Right.
Every time you think of it, your brain has to fire in there. So they're recording those firings, and then seeing collectively over time, they've studied so many people and done so much invested research that, they imagine that was back in 1972. They had a 250 word dictionary for that without even, but now imagine in 2019, that's over 4 decades ago, But
Right.
and the second part of that research, what was interesting about it?
What's that?
With the two doctors? Okay, so the first part, they created the dictionary of the thoughts and emotions. And then the second doctor, Dr. Robert G. Mallett, he was able to make a frequency modulator machine. Okay, just an FM, a frequency modulator machine. And with that machine, he was able to broadcast. This is your area of expertise, right? EMF broadcast. Right? The name of your channel?
Well,
anyway, hang on. Allegedly, God, you want to do this. And how deep do you want to go? Just give me a little signal if I'm saying something I should, just give me no, don't give me that sign.
Say whatever you want to say. This is
telepathically.
uncensored. This is completely freestyle. We're just raw with it.
Yeah, and we're, you know what? Yeah, we're and we're not professionals. So I just want to make sure that this, that people know that we're not professionals. This is just based off of personal experience and research.
Right.
Okay, so if they have any questions, they should definitely research it some more. And in fact, I challenge your viewers and the viewers of this to do the research. To see, make sure,
well,
test out to see what we're saying is true. Because we
well,
could just be two
it's very
crazy people,
difficult,
playing on the broadcast.
You're right, but it's very difficult because there's so much propaganda surrounding the situation, and everything out there is very cloudy. You know what I mean? A lot of the stuff that's out there is meant to mislead people that are experiencing these type of targeting situations. So it's, the people that have experience almost could be known as the experts, really, because a lot of the stuff that I've read, I can tell you that it is no good. A lot of stuff out there is not very accurate, really.
Really? Poor Kevin. Oh, I don't know. I got some good information. When I went onto the internet, I found you. Not only, I found your videos. That wasn't until a little later. That kind of tied it all in. But I found, books by Dr. John Hall, Dr. Robert Duncan, who was actually one of the people who helped develop the whole voice to skull technology. The whole, and that if the audience, just to go back a little bit. Okay, so.
Well, about this Robert Duncan guy, I haven't talked to him, but I've heard a lot about him. Okay, and
yeah, he was on Jesse Ventura Brain Invaders. He has I'm going to include it in the links at the end of the video.
So what is he? He's coming out with the as like I helped make this, and here's me exposing it. Is that what he's doing?
He was one of the, I guess he's an engineer or some type of scientist, but he was one of the main, he worked for the intelligence agencies or something like that. Military, I don't know, something. But, he's just saying, and this is general knowledge, that during the Iraq War, that's how one of the battles was won, was by broadcasting microwave. Okay, so the audience should know waves, frequencies are the same word. Radiation, waves, frequency, signals, right? They're in the brain, they're in your body, and they're in the environment. So internet, TV, radio, all that. That's frequencies, right? So basically, he was saying that in the Iraq War, that they were able to use a microwave broadcast to broadcast the voices to the skulls, right? It's called.
Now you're talking about the original Iraq War in the 90s, right? Right.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it was the original Gulf War, and they called it Voice of God. I've read about that.
Yeah, so you know what that is. That's synthetic telepathy. That's basically that thing that the brain, again, here we go with the brain, with the frequencies. You don't hear necessarily through your ears. You don't see through your eyes. It's a part in the brain that controls that. For the eyes, it's in the back, which is funny because your eyes are in the front. So you think the part would be in the front, but it's in the back because of refraction and all that. But so anyways, you can broadcast straight to the cortex and make somebody see what you want them to see, hallucinations, or you can make them hear what you want them to hear. So what happened was these scientists, engineers broadcasted the voice of God, of Allah, whatever, to those Iraqi soldiers and told them that it was the voice of God, please surrender your weapons and get down. And they did, because they thought they were hearing the voice of God, because all of them were hearing it and it was inside of their head. They didn't realize, this is an advanced satellite-based technology, microwave.
I'm very curious to why he wouldn't come out and say, well, here's how you can record this technology for all of these people that are being targeted and having to deal with it. Because if I'm correct, you said you don't experience the artificial telepathy.
Right.
So, but I do, and a lot of other targeted people. Most people don't, but a lot of people do as well, and it's a difficult thing.
I worked at the mental hospital. You said you were there. You said they had, you had been there because they, whatever, involuntarily committed or assaulted you, or whatever. But which sucks. But you got out. But yeah, I worked at one, and a lot of people, they could seem very normal, and they were. Now, knowing what I know now, I wish I would have known then. But I even knew then. I'm like, these people are not that crazy, man. They're just not. Like, they would hear voices. It was very, I don't want to get too much into it, but a lot of people were suffering from that mental illness. Schizophrenia, too, was a lot of the big labels. I call it fakeophhrenia. Because, not that schizophrenia doesn't exist.
It may not. It may not. Just like tinnitus, it may not exist. A lot of people say they have tinnitus, and I can tell you that gang stalkers can turn something like that on. They can turn on frequencies and ringing in your ears. They can turn on all kinds of stuff. So artificial telepathy doesn't have to be talking. It could be all sorts of things. And another thing, when they turn on that voice of God, it's it makes me wonder, like, how did all of them hear it? Because if somebody's talking to me and you're standing next to me, but somebody's talking to me with artificial telepathy, you're not going to hear it. I'll hear it. They would have to be on your channel for you to hear it, and then I wouldn't hear it on your channel. So it's a broadcast directly on your frequency, because every person, has their own EMF signature frequency. So it's kind of like if you turn your radio to 99.7, you're going to hear the broadcast from 99.7, but you're not going to hear the 107 broadcast on the 99.7 unless you tune your radio to that. So, but both of those signals are in the air. All those frequencies are coming through the air. So you just have to tune into a certain one to be able to hear that. So it's kind of like that. But it's puzzling to me how they would make it to where the whole army out there could hear it. But
Kevin,
I definitely believe
the military, man.
Yeah,
the military.
you're right.
Come on, bro.
Yeah.
They just it's a broadcast. That means if they want to mess with you, they could just send it to you, so they're capable. But if they want to send it to if they want to send it to a whole city, they could send it to it, but they wouldn't, because then the gig's up, right?
Right.
Okay, so you have to do it in control. Those were enemies. Now keep that in mind. They were doing that.
Yeah, they don't need to be secretive about that. But like in a targeted person, like they don't want to target grandma or my little brother or something, because all of a sudden then they know that I'm telling the truth. So that's not something that gang stalkers are going to do, because they want you to lose credibility. And so that's a big deal, to make sure that nobody believes you and that you're isolated. If you got 10 people all saying the same thing, then it starts to be more than a coincidence, or more than somebody's crazy or something like that. So
yeah. Yep, that's why we're here too, because all of us can't be having a delusion, you know what I mean?
Right.
And this is, right? Yeah, you're not that crazy, or you're not. I mean, we're all, right. I find out later, and they're like, this guy, oh my goodness. Is this a real radio show? Like, is it just like us and 5 people?
Yeah.
We'll get this message out, hey, together.
Yeah.
Help some people.
Yeah, I believe we will be able to help a lot of people, and I believe we're at the forefront of this whole thing, because this is going to be the big topic. Over time, when more and more people start to understand, hey, this is real and this is happening, and when you watch the news at night, they're going to say, well, hey, this is blah blah blah, mind control and broadcast, and I believe it's going to be a huge deal. I've already secured everything, so I went ahead and got emfbroadcast.com, and I got the Instagram and everything. So because that's what it is, it's EMF broadcast. And when people start to file in, somebody else bought remote neural monitoring, and they have it for sale for $4,000. So that's probably a good price in realistic.
A domain? Is that a domain?
It's a domain. Yeah, remoteneuralmonitoring.com. Somebody already bought that, and they have it for sale for $4,000, which is probably a good price. Really, it'll probably be $1 million in a few years when more people start to know about this. But I went ahead and bought emfbroadcast.com. But that's going to be something that I'm going to work on in the future. Go ahead and get that website up. But I own it, so.
Awesome. Maybe I would love to talk to you about that more, about getting a website, and because that's going to be able to get this information out even to more people.
Right. Yeah, especially the terms that people know of. I'm sure v2k.com is probably already taken, but if there's terminology that everybody's using that's about this stuff, those are good domain names to go ahead and buy. And it's something that I've done. I own several. I won't go into all of them, but I bought several domain names, about 3 or 4. So this is the future. People are going to be talking about mind control and remote neural monitoring and all of this stuff all the time. Everybody's going to be talking about it. I'm not exactly sure what the grand scheme is, but I know that it's got a lot to do with money and power and control. And they know that whoever gets on this system and has access most of them become very addicted to mind control. So,
Yeah.
these gang stalkers that are doing this, they're just tools. They don't even know. I mean, a lot of them probably do know, but they don't care. But they're just tools in the grand scheme of things, and they're doing what was expected of them to do, and they don't even have to be told to do so.
Right. They're under mind control too, I believe.
Right.
I mean,
Well, you were talking about hive mind and how people connect to devices, and that will be the case too. But right now, what you have is people connecting to people. And so when these gang stalkers are talking to me, I may have three or four of them talking to me, but you can usually tell who's the one doing the lead, because three or four people may be talking, but you're going to really be dealing with one personality, whoever's running the little live stream session of mind control. The rest of them are just being mind controlled, and that's what they're addicted to, is being mind controlled. And you would call them a hive mind, because they all get together, and connect to each other, and it's like literally a hive mind.
yeah, right. That's the name for it too, I think. I mean, in the medical field, or in the military industrial complex field, and the medical industry complex field. That's
Yeah.
the terms that we use, is the hive mind. Yeah, that's the goal. That's one of the goals for the new world order. I mean, if you want to be, with the agenda and everything, they would like, because the human brain, we know now that it is capable to sync it with devices, and it's capable to sync it with other human brains. You can sync. That's what this is, hive mind.
Right.
I just want to look. I just want to think of something real quick. I'm looking at my notes here. I want to make sure we talk about. There was something you brought up that's interesting. Um, okay, you were saying something about um, the power pyramid is what you started to touch on. The power hierarchy. Where like who's, because I think people want to know who's doing this and why. Like, because this would be, because with your symptoms, you're talking about, the B2K. With my symptoms, I could get into it, but it's a lot of mine is sleep based. And I noticed mine started like after I had a surgery in 2011, which is funny because that was the same year that the president at the time signed the Human Brain Initiative Act, which Europe already had it, but that's when the United States, we got ours. And it's like the name implies, Human Brain Initiative. So that's when this whole push for mind control and hive mind to sync human brains with each other and with devices, it came into the forefront even more so. So a lot of testing began around that time. So anyways, I had a surgery, and believe it or not, Kevin, the weirdest thing, I started having a lot of sleep disturbances, okay? So I would, say for instance, and I was in school and I worked full time, okay? And I would go to sleep and I would wake up at the same time every day, like clockwork, 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I started doing weird things like sleepwalking. I wouldn't even remember getting up. Sometimes I'd even eat when I got up. I would eat like a bite of bread, which is weird. Usually I keep my bread in the fridge so it doesn't mold. But when I was having these symptoms, I would get up in the middle of the night, not remember it, go to the fridge, take out a loaf of bread, open it up, take out a bite of bread, one bite out of a whole piece of bread, leave it on the counter, leave the whole bread on the counter, don't, and wake up in the next morning, it would be all there. It would, I'd even do it with chocolate. I'd like get up in the middle of the night and eat chocolate from my purse or something. And it was crazy. I'm like, why did I do that? I would never do this when I'm awake. I would not leave the bread out. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it got crazier too. Let's check this out. So that was some of the first symptoms. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm sleepwalking. I'm not hurting nobody, I'm not like, whatever, eating, knives or something, right? So then I started noticing I was tired a lot. It got to the point, now mind you, I was in school and I was working, so I contributed it to that, right? I'm tired because I'm working, I'm in school. I'm tired. Who's not tired? But it got to the point where it was embarrassingly tired. Like I had narcolepsy. It felt like that. Like I would literally I would be like at friends' parties and like have to leave and go out in my car and like take a nap. Like it got that, like it was bizarre. I remember one day being so tired I could barely make it home from a friend's house. I remember like almost drudging up the stair. It was so bizarre. And I got home and I laid on the bed like I was drugged. I felt like, I mean, it wasn't, because at that party there was nothing. I know this for sure. I didn't even drink or eat anything.
Well, I mean, I've experienced the same type of thing. Oh no, it's. I mean, I'll let you know when we
Can you
start.
see me?
I can see you. It's freezing up a little bit though. Let me see. Say something.
Oh, okay, good. I haven't recorded something yet. Okay. This is what they mean when they say technical difficulties. Am I right?
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. I mean,
So so I can keep it peaceful.
how is it though?
You could have just tucked it in, probably. But
No.
yeah, that's gonna work. I think that's gonna make it a lot better because that bright light was really making you just look like you were, in some kind of tunnel or something. Yeah, that is definitely better. I can see you now. Okay.
Okay, good. And it's a green screen. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let me get my.
I have to put the hammer away. Like, yeah, I have or I mean, how do you have your phone set up?
I don't have a. I mean, my phone's right here. I got a laptop. I'm on a laptop.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Something. You do?
I don't know what you're saying. It's like it's jumbling up.
Okay. Hey, hi. Uh-huh. What's up with that split screen? It looks like.
If you turn your phone sideways, it'll go on the full screen.
Fascinating.
So you have to turn your phone sideways if you want a full screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, hold on. I bought this little tripod-y thing,
Yeah.
like at a little store, and kind of like the little it's like a little one with foam arms on it, so you can kind of make it stick anywhere.
Yeah. So, all right. Look, I'm just gonna start. Okay.
No. I'm scared, like I'm jumping in the pool. Like,
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's gonna be okay because we have to start at some point, and we're gonna be into this whole thing. So, I'm just gonna start. So, here we go.